Hello, everybody, and welcome to another episode of All Knicked Up. We are coming at you live and direct from New York, of course. New York City, the New York City area, anyway. That's where we're at. City that never sleeps was definitely alive last night, but we'll get into that in a little bit. Um, First of all, today is Wednesday, May 15th. I'm a little bit frazzled right now, guys, so don't just roll with me for a bit. But want to welcome you all in again to another exciting episode. So let me bring Ty on because Joe apparently is busy tonight, so he can't make it. But Ty's here, I'm here to discuss. Yeah, man, to discuss to recap Game 5 and then look ahead to Game 6. So, Ty, let's start. Normally, I try and jump right into things, but I actually want to start this with a question. How were you feeling yesterday going into Game 5? Where was your headspace at entering into that game last night?
Well, it's very funny because before that game, I was talking to my niece and my little nephew, her son, out in the yard, and I was doing a little bit of yard work or whatever. And first thing she says, Uncle Ty, she's like, what do you think about the game tonight? And I was like, I was thinking about the blood pressure medicine I might need to go grab before I go watch it. However, she said, well, what do you feel? Do you feel like they're going to win? And I said, I do think they're going to win. I said, will I may have a heart attack before that even happens? Absolutely. But I said, I just had confidence that they were going to bounce back in that game. I did think they were going to win. I didn't feel like too worried about it. I think they had a lot to prove after actually, succumbing to that ass whooping that they had in Indiana. I would never think them to not show up for a game in the Garden of all places. They've been just a very tough, gritty team all year. I would expect that they would come out with that same, different kind of energy, very intense energy. Knowing who their coach is, I never thought that they would, take the foot off the brakes if they could get a lead. I thought it would be a lot closer. I would think that Indiana was going to smell a little bit of blood in the water and try to take advantage and get a little bit greedy. So, yeah, I thought they were going to win. I just didn't think that they were going to tear the roof off, and literally come in and, Biggie Smalls kicking the door, waving the 4-4. They just mollywopped them, which is kind of crazy.
Yeah, I thought they would win, but I'm like you. I thought it would be a lot closer than the final score actually was. Did not see that coming at all. It was the first time in the series where I really felt like the Pacers were shaken a bit. I have a feeling that after the beatdown they gave the Knicks on Mother's Day, which everyone is now calling the Mother's Day Massacre, I believe after that game they might have think, okay, the Knicks, Brunson's banged up, they're tired, they're exhausted. I think the Pacers might have been thinking that was going to be that wasn't going to be a tough game for them to win. And I mean, if that's what they thought, well, then they were a little following the Knicks this year, right? Because this team has defied the odds. They've, had to deal with adversity all season.
Exactly.
Nothing has come easy for them. And, this team we say it all the time. They're very resilient. Like every time we think they're dead, even us, every time we think they're dead, they come out and they have a game like yesterday. And you're like, and I think the biggest surprise to me yesterday was not that Brunson had a good game. It was how good he looked playing.
Yeah.
Right. He didn't look like I didn't notice the effects. Like Sunday, it was clear. Like he was struggling to get off the floor. And everyone's trying to make a big deal of the Friday to Sunday, like how short a time frame that was. I mean, okay, but to affect him that much?
Yeah.
I mean, that was a little strange. So I don't know what was going on Sunday. Maybe they were just like, look, we want to get the hell out of here. It's Mother's Day. We want to go spend time with our mothers. Doesn't matter if we lose because mom's going to love us anyway. So like, I feel like they were not to say that they didn't try, but as soon as they realized they didn't have it, I think they kind of just said, okay, this is not our day.
Yeah.
And the interesting in that game was, and I think it probably shocked you as well, because it shocked me, towards the end of that game, Tim Zackley took the starters out.
Yeah. That's usually not a normal thing. We know about that more so than anything. I mean, we hear even the NBA former players speak. You know, we know about the poll. The poll all automatically says nobody wants to play for the damn guy. You know, Kid Rock,
Right.
whatever you want to say about him. You know, but you know, he's been notorious for always doing this throughout his whole career, no matter what the talent level. He has a short rotation. He's going to kill his starters. You know, I always my joke is he killed Derrick Rose. You know, he'll probably kill Brunson in the next couple of years. You know, literally. But you know, think pretty much when you think about it, he just won't bend. He will not bend. He's just inflexible when it comes to that. But to see him concede, then maybe his guys need a little bit of rest or to surrender that sometimes there's nothing you can do about certain games. There's just certain games where they have your number and you can't, no matter how much you try to show up, you just can't match either the energy or the production of the other team. And you take the L and you go home. It wasn't the end of the world. It wasn't like it was a game 7 and you gave up quick. It was just literally you conceded that you have home court advantage and then maybe we need to run it back to New York and just take the L. They did what they were supposed to do. And maybe in his mind, he said, you know, my theory was I posted up on a page, you know, I really do believe, you know, teams pick that one game when on the road. When you're up 2-0, they pick that one game to pour their energy into. And that was game 3. What up, Stace? That was game 3, literally. I think they took their kill shot. And they literally had an op. They had an opportunity to win towards the end. And they kind of, you know, Ricola, they coughed it up. It was like a little Heimlich. They coughed up
Yeah.
the game. And literally by doing so, they just pretty much, you know, probably conceded the next game was they gave their shot in that game. They had no energy by the time that 4th game came around. They probably just said, "Well, we don't got it tonight." And maybe Thibodeau finally realized that too, because you rarely see Brunson out of sorts. You know, that's the one thing. He's a very controlled player.
That's
You
true.
know, you can see him turning the knock has been the turnovers. I think it still is one of the knocks on him is that he can find a moment where he coughs the ball up at the wrong damn time. Like we always talk about his turnovers. They don't. It's not like he has a bunch of them. It's just usually somewhere in the 4th he's going to have a hiccup, and it can cost you a game sometimes because of he's using the ball. You know, his overusage. He has a high usage, obviously, towards the end. So, but needless to say, yeah, Thibodeau, that's a good change. He needs to because those guys you can't burn them out when the rotation is so damn short right now without all the injuries that have occurred during the time.
Yeah, that was really really smart, and I'm sure at least I heard that they left like they got an early flight back. Like they did not stick around in
Yeah.
Indiana after that game, which is
Mhm.
probably the best thing that they did because they got home, they were able to sleep in their own beds and rest and get proper rest and treatment. The guys who needed treatment were able to get treatment at the facility, at the Knicks
Mhm.
facility. So yeah, I think that was probably the best thing. That game, honestly, and I told you guys this. I started watching it. I obviously it was Mother's Day, so
Yeah.
you're running around doing things, and I had it on my phone. I was watching it on my phone,
Mhm.
um, and I started watching it, and I knew within like the first 6 minutes,
Yeah.
I was like, yeah, they just don't have it. Like I could tell right away. I stuck with it for most of the first quarter, but
Gotcha.
I knew that that game was lost. I knew that they were not coming back, not winning that game. You can kind of tell. Like we watch the team all the time, so we know certain signs we see. And
Mhm.
yeah, like Dante looked off, and like I said, Brunson obviously looked off, and even Hart wasn't playing with his normal speed, like
Yeah.
the go speed. So when you saw that, they clearly left everything on the table in Game 3, and when it didn't go their way, they were kind of like, all right, we'll see what happens in game 4. I'm not promising anything. Like, kind of like we're not promising nothing. We'll see what we have left.
Yeah.
Um, and they just didn't have it. So rewind to last night.
Yeah.
That was totally unexpected, man. I did not expect that. Even when they got up big at the first time, like
Yeah.
before halftime, I was like, Indiana's gonna come back. Like
Mhm.
that's the way the series has been, except for the game 4. So I just expected them to come back, and they didn't, and they really, really looked shaken.
They were
Yeah,
show. They were show.
yeah,
I think the whole you heard Carlisle concede. that he had a bunch of players who never had a game 5, basically, is what he came down to. And especially, they were not prepared for the intense level that the Garden. I mean, I don't know what more footage that the rest of the country needs to see about the intensity of Madison Square Garden. I think they believe it's just a bunch of New Yorkers bragging about an old building and this mystique, that it doesn't work that way, blah, blah, blah. But you could hear the Garden through the television. And I think I don't think people really get a true understanding of how loud. If your television is shaking, imagine what the building is doing inside, because you've got some hungry, ravenous, some crazy, some off. We have a whole collection, a whole mosaic in New York of
We
people
do.
who love this thing right here, that symbol right there. And they're hungry. You got stars showing their arse, basically. They're in the mosh pit, because that's literally what you're facing when you are on that floor, is the mosh pit of New York. And if you're not ready for that, you saw Obi. Obi was like a little bit like, maybe I ain't in New York for a while.
He
Even
forgot a little bit.
he started like, Josh Hart was running him off the floor, literally. He tried to go somewhere, and Hart's like, you won't go there. You won't go here. You're not going here. You're not going there. And it seemed like 4 Josh Harts was guarding him at one point, because he really couldn't adjust to the magnitude of the moment. And, I think Indiana, they did the worst thing, I always think, towards the end of that game, where they mollywopped us by poking a bear. Because,
Yeah.
Siakam, Spicy P, I don't know why the hell he wants that nickname. Go figure it out. But glad he's not on the Knicks, and nobody got to repeat that goofy damn name to anyone else in the world. But he did the worst thing that you should never do to any star. Maybe he doesn't see Brunson as a star, but I'm more than sure now he's thinking over. Well, damn, yeah, I know he don't look the part. I know, yeah, we might have said we think he's a 1A or whatever. I don't know what he is, but right now he's a badass dude that you just don't go. And he's proven that he's a star and a superstar in this league, because those are the kind of guys you just don't go and you don't needle point at him and say, whatever he said, because he said something that I never hear Brunson really talk out of his lane, basically. You never hear him use explicatives and all that stuff. But in this case, he was like, it's an effing long series. And he looked back and was like, oh, you got mouth? You got mouth. We'll see next game, because he probably went home and bathed in a bunch of ice for like 48 hours of ice just for that moment last night, because he came out, was aggressive and physical. I've never seen him be as physical as maybe last night, even on some of those charges that he got. I think it was purposeful to let those guys know, I'm going to bounce you around like a bouncer. You come in here, I'm going to hurt you. I'm going to put some hurt on you tonight. And the whole team played that way. Hence my name on the bottom of what I put up. Dante, they all came out with that energy of we the bad boys in here, not you guys. And that's what they really came out and showed to the world last night.
That was another surprise for me, that they were able to do that without a big offensive game from Dante, who didn't really shoot well last night.
Yeah.
But that brings me to the other guy I want to talk about.
Mm-hmm.
And I said he'd do it for a quarter, but now he's been doing it for a couple games. So we need to give Alec Burks a lot of props. We were killing him and railing him when he was playing bad. We said he was done. He should have, he wasn't even part of the trade. We didn't consider him as part of that trade. And man, without him, they would be in trouble. He has been fantastic. And I mean, it just goes to show you, right? A veteran player who's been in the playoffs before. Mm-hmm. Yeah. He knows what's to expect. They always say you prepare like you're playing. Yeah. You prepare like you're starting. And he clearly has been doing that. His shot is back. Yeah. Thank God that line drive shot is back. Because the bench, as we know, the injuries kept coming. The bench was getting thinner and thinner, and they needed somebody else who could score points.
Absolutely.
and he's been fantastic.
Birkin bag, Birkin bag. He's in his bag right now with those
Yeah, man.
3-point daggers and a little Danielson karate chop to the neck.
Yes, the Turner. It's a Turner. Yes, I
Very
saw that.
slight, but like right in the throat.
Yeah,
It's like we're not even having this mess because Indiana's not that team. And Dante was right; they're not that team, But the Knicks have been that team all year. They just grind it out. But it's good to see Alec Burke, which we knew. We were just praying that he didn't play point guard, but we
right.
are seeing him, be a bucket, and that's what he was for the Knicks those years that he was here. He was capable of, going off in quarters, and like you said, it's become games now where he's come out as the vet, as a sharpshooter, a guy who's been timely with his buckets. He's a threat, and if there's one thing that the Knicks definitely need, like you just said, it they needed something else other than depending on Miles McBride to come in and be a 25-point scorer, coming in the game because it's literally him and Precious Achua that you're asking to pick up the offense now that OG is
Right.
out. So to see Burks come in, that's a great dynamic to have. We need somebody like that, a playmaker and a scorer, and he's providing everything. So shout out to Alec Burks. We won't be talking about you bad no more moving forward.
Yeah, the only thing I want to say is stay healthy. That's what I say to everyone now.
Oh,
Just stay healthy, please.
yes, yes.
That's what you brought up McBride, who he had a fantastic game as well. Defensively more than offensively, he
Yeah,
literally shut down Halliburton. Um, and I mean, we've seen it happen with him a few times. Yes, everyone out there, if you're an Indiana fan and watching, we know he's not healthy. We're
yeah.
not saying he is. We're not saying he's at 100%, but neither is our guy. So I don't want to hear that crap, you know?
Talk health and talk New York, please.
Right? Like, yeah, we're dealing with a lot of injuries ourselves, so I don't want to hear it. He's out there, he's playing, he should get scrutinized, and he is their best player, so he deserves whatever the Indiana. I don't know what the Indiana people are saying about him, the Indiana media, but I'm sure they're not saying nice things today either. So but yeah, credit goes to McBride. Like
Yeah,
he literally he said it in his post game press conference. He's like, defense, I'm a defender first. And you can tell, and I keep mentioning his football background. He
yeah,
he uses his body, he gets into guys,
yeah.
he lets them know that he's there. And that to me, that game, I mean, he's had a lot of good games in the playoffs, but what he did last night, to
Mhm.
me, he took another level. He took
Yeah,
another step up in what we expect from someone like him. Because he got put in the starting lineup specifically for that reason. And the
mhm.
little change on offense that they made, they stopped. Hartenstein wasn't the screener, McBride was
Yeah,
on the pick and rolls.
crazy, right?
Right. So that's what they changed a little bit to get Hartenstein closer to the basket. And as we know with him as well, the 15 or 12 or whatever many offensive rebounds he had was ridiculous.
Ridiculous.
Um, I always get on the coach for being out coached by the other coach, but last night Tibbs gets a huge round of applause
He gets the
because
he gets the clap back, that's for sure.
yes, yeah, he made fantastic adjustments, and especially the ones I just said. The ability to have McBride be the main screener and have
Mhm.
Hartenstein close to the basket to grab the rebounds. I mean, that was the game. The Knicks, I think they took 102 shots or something like that. Some ridiculous amount of total shots for that game. Um, which is and let me look. I'll pull it up.
Yeah, that's absolutely crazy when I hear that number. Think about that.
Yeah, I'm gonna look it up because I know I saw it before and I was like, that's crazy how many shots the Knicks had 101 shots.
Wow.
Indiana had 72. So they had 29 more shots at the basket than the Pacers did. I
Well,
mean,
that shows a lack of aggression by the Pacers.
sure,
Who were
sure.
they played a very, they were intimidated. I mean, people don't want to say that. Excuse me. When it comes to professional athletes, you don't believe that could occur, but they were intimidated. They were physically intimidated because once you play the offensive rebound game that the Knicks play, you can't be a punk grabbing all those offensive boards. You're basically saying that I'm going to physically outplay you and I'm going to outwit you, outsmart you, whatever you want to say. And to see the Knicks actually come out and they just basically stomped the mud hole and walked it dry. because
Yeah,
Indiana
they did.
really they wanted no parts. And we're going to speak a little bit back on Halliburton. You heard some of the people spoke about. I think it was Draymond Green or whoever it was in the post game, speaking about Halliburton not wanting to play defense. It was a point where he would kind of reach around, and I know he's a defender. I mean, we could always equate back to the injury, but all things
Sure.
considered, we do look at, like we say, our team is the most injured team in the NBA. Do I feel sorry for any other injured teams? No,
No.
because our team is not feeling sorry for themselves. So when I see it, if you lace them up and you decide to go out there, it is what it is. But you did see the intimidation factor where those guys just didn't want it. Turner tried to, he tried. He got a little beef steak tomato and tried to have some beef. It wasn't real beef. It's impossible beef. Dude, we know you're not that dude, like Dante said. None of those guys are that dude. There's not nobody on Indiana. Maybe Mathurin, if he was playing, I might buy him and have a little bit more bark. But a lot of it,
McConnell.
Well,
McConnell is. Yeah.
there you go. Shout out to McConnell.
Yeah.
He's on the bases, but that dude's a dog. Now he is a flat out McGruff. He's a dog, so we can
Yes.
respect what he does. You see even Starks grabbing his jersey, like, yeah, we know you won him. You won. Won't you come on the Knicks? That's probably what he's trying to. Won't you come here next year? Because we need dogs like you in the kennel. But Pacers aren't that. They're a finesse team. They're a speedball team.
They
You
are.
know, that's how they've thrived. When you think about their high octane offense. But come playoff time, if you watch this game at all, it's a half court, grind it out, nasty game. That's who wins titles. We saw, to go a little more left coast, we saw what happened with Denver. It's like teams become more physical. The half court game matters. All those perimeter shots that you were making, teams are like, nah, you're going to go in the paint. You're going to have to earn it. So, that's what we're seeing with Indiana. We're seeing a New York team say, we're running you off the line, and you're going to have to, and we're going to slow down the game, figure out what you need to do. And they haven't had an answer. When the Knicks are locked in, they don't have an answer for it.
Right. The only game that the Pacers really played at their pace for the whole game was Game 4 that they won, that they blew the Knicks out. Because Game 3 was back and forth, tight game. The Knicks were up by 9. They should have won that game. They should have been up 3-0. So that game is good. That game will stick in my craw until they win this series. Yeah. If they win in Game 6 or Game 7, whatever many games, however many games are left, it won't bother me as much. But right now, that game bothers me a lot. So we'll see what happens going forward with that. But yeah, man, there's nothing else you can say about last night. That was just a fantastic performance from beginning to end. Credit to the building, like you said, man. That there's nothing like that place when it's rocking like that. There's literally no arena in the world that gets that kind of response from the fans. Like, people say, what do you mean when you say that? I'm like, well, the way the building is designed is that little bowl that comes down is to keep the noise level low so that it impacts what's going on the court or the ice when the Rangers are playing. So that's what I mean when I say that, because the fans are the part that's making the noise, and the building is the one that's keeping it that level. So it's a fantastic place. I mean, they don't call it the world's most famous arena for nothing. It's not just to do with basketball. There's been so many great boxing matches there, and other things have gone on there that have been, that are iconic. But for teams that they house, it's pretty much the Knicks and the Rangers now, and St. John's to an extent as well. And I always say the building, when the teams are playing well, the building gets a huge assist. Building gets a huge assist. So
you even heard the players. Brunson mentioned, I think in his post game, he said, "It's where we play. It's the fans. It's the noise in the building. You hear people talk about it. Usually, what has happened, we've not received that as far as from our fan base, because usually it has been road teams, because we stuck for so long. The road teams, the stars would come in and get the kind of favor. We had Laker invasions in the Garden during, whether it was Kobe or Lebanon James or whoever you want to say. They come in and they got their own little fan base and people, whatever. But when the Garden has that fervor that we see right now, that flame, nobody, maybe except for a few exceptional players, want to deal with that kind of noise and that aggravation. That's where you see the Michael Jordan's, his play in the Garden has always been, the shining moment, because you can't just come in here when this Garden is rocking and play at a high level. You're going to be impacted, and we've seen it last night with the Pacers. Like I said, you got a hometown guy who looked like he'd rather go sell the hot dogs in the stands last night than dribble the ball, because he's like, I don't want no part of it. And always a highlight reel. But even he was a little bit taken back by the noise and what the Garden can bring. So shout out to New York Knicks fans.
Yeah, they said Rick Carlisle had earplugs. Someone
He
said
did.
he had earplugs
He
in.
had earplugs.
That's crazy.
You
That
know,
is a crazy thing.
what's funny about him? He's like, I have respect for Rick. I mean, I know he won a title in Dallas, and I know he's one of the better coaches.
Yeah.
But man, he I talk about Scam Van Gundy all the time. I don't like him, but Rick is sounding like Scam Van Gundy literally when he became this whiny coach. He's like, he took up where Nick Nurse left off. But you could see that playing here with his team has affected him. Like he looks like he didn't have any answers. I would have never gave a press conference, even if I believed it, the way he gave last night. Like, well, my team really can't play here. That's the first thing I really thought about when he said it. I was like, I would never, even if I believed that, I would never let someone believe that impacted my players. He's just been very transparent at the wrong damn time, in my opinion.
I think he's trying to get their attention.
Yeah,
I think he's trying to get his team's attention. Like they're probably saying, like, "Wow, coach really said that." Like he's basically challenging their manhood, for lack of a better term.
Yeah.
He's trying to get that out of them, and be like, "Look, yeah, we smacked them the other day, but they turned right around and smacked us in their home building now. So, where was that? Like, where was the aggression we had at home on Sunday? He was trying to bring that out of them? It's. I mean, we've always seen it. Riley used to do the same thing.
Yeah.
Phil Jackson's done things like this in the past.
Mm-hmm.
The good coaches sometimes use the media to push their team. That's just that's part of their plan. So I think that's part of what he's been doing this entire series, because I do think he respects not only the Knicks and the coach, but I think he respects the building. I think he understands, this place is different.
Yeah.
So he has to try and push their buttons to try and get things going. It is interesting though. You're right. It's very interesting to hear him in this series, and then in other series where I've heard him before. It's a very different. His words are very different.
Yeah.
So it has been an interesting thing to follow, but we won't have the Garden for the next game. We are going back to Gamebridge Fieldhouse, I think it's called. Yes, Gamebridge Fieldhouse for Game 6. Back to Indiana. Brunson said this in his press conference, and I tend to believe it. In the playoffs, one game does not bleed into the next.
Exactly.
It's every game is their own thing. So I don't think there's going to be any hangover. The Pacers haven't lost at home at all in the playoffs. They've won every home game so far. So there's two ways to look at it. Say, hell, they're really good at home. And the other way is they're due to lose a game at home.
Yeah.
That's my optimistic take about it. So what are you looking for? What adjustments do you see both teams making going into Game 6? What is your high level view of what you think is going to happen on Friday?
On Friday, I think the Indiana Pacers are probably going to play a game that they believe has to mimic what the Knicks did to them in the Garden. I think, they got punked, and I think they'll come out trying to prove they're not punks. I don't think that fits them, though. I think if they come out trying to play a game where you're overly aggressive and you're going to try to push Dante, who is the best seller of any pick I've seen in a long time, he waits for those moments to sell that pick. He sells it better than anything at Best Buy. I mean, you want a stereo set? Let Dante sell it, because he sells that damn pick. So I think you're going to see guys come out and try to touch up, to prove that they do have that level of play in them. I think that feeds right into New York. I think that's the game that they don't want to play. I think with New York, we've all known for the longest time, you and I have discussed a million times over, you want to beat the Knicks, you got to shoot 3-pointers. You got to make them scramble on offense. I mean, when your offense is clicking, make their defense have to scramble. I think what we've seen is that the Knicks have just picked that Halliburton's not, if he's not healthy or he is healthy, they're like, you're not going to be the one. So you got to get someone else to be the one. We're going to run you off the line, and we're going to force you to have to make decisions, in the blink of an eye, as opposed to, he's always been a peruser, of the floor. He finds the time, he has the height, he has the skill level to pass. It just, we've not seen that in this series, because the Knicks have done a great job with the McBrides and the Harts, and even iHart has played him extremely well. Like, well, you can dance all you want. We're not going to the prom, though. That's basically what they've done with Halliburton. So they miss Mathurin. So you're asking now Pascal Siakam and Miles Turner to be 3-point shooters. I don't see how that works. I don't see how it works. I mean, and I think the Knicks will take into this series, into this next game, the energy. I think that's the adjustment, that they know they can't have moments where they fall off. They keep the game close. They challenge a lot. I think they believe that the Indiana Pacers are mentally not as strong. So I'm looking for the team to come out and try to test their heart. Both are going to be a test of heart. I think that's really what's going to happen in the next game. I would not want to be in it, not because I'm a Knicks fan. I just don't think you go into a dogfight with the Knicks. I just think that's the dumbest thing you can actually do. I think you will lose more than win if you play that brand of basketball. The Knicks' nemesis is that they don't score a lot of points if you're a team that can run it up. I just don't see how Halliburton is hampered unless he gets some rejuvenation in the next couple of days and he feels a lot more like himself. I don't see what's going to change from that game, other than I think it might be a close score, in which I do think the Knicks are going to win Game 6. I think that's what's going to happen if Indiana does not come out and have the usage of Halliburton the way they just rebound too well. I don't know how you get in fast breaks on a team that rebounds the way the Knicks rebound. You're in trouble.
Yeah, that's the biggest thing, I think. If the Knicks control the glass like they have, yeah, then I think they have a really, really good shot of closing it out in Indiana. I do think if I'm Carlisle, I'm playing Isaiah Jackson more. I'm playing TJ McConnell more. Like, I'm playing these guys because Isaiah Jackson has a little bit of that dog in him too. So I'm playing those Nemhard a little bit. Those guys you can play, the grittier players, because at this point now it's about survival, right? Yeah. It's about they're down, they have to survive, they know it's win or go home. So now it's about survival, and you want to play the guys that you know are going to fight and grab and claw and do whatever they can. So I'm expecting a change like that to be made. I think he's going to go with Halliburton. Obviously, he's his best player, but I think he's going to basically see how he's going, and if he's having a good game, then all right, we're good. If he's not, though, I wouldn't be surprised if he doesn't play him as much as he played him in the other games in the series where McConnell was playing well and he pulled him for Halliburton. I think like I said, he knows this is it. So he needs to get this win. I do agree with you, and I agree with Dante too, that Indiana is not that physical team. They're a finesse, up and down running team. That's what they should be trying to do. That's what I'd be trying to do, especially like Joe. He's not here, but his biggest concern was, well, they run up and down the court. The Knicks are short, undermanned right now. That could be a problem for them. It hasn't, because the Knicks have controlled the glass. So when you control the glass, you control the tempo, and it's been a masterclass in that regard. Like, that has been fantastic. So if things hold to form, I think it's going to be a close game. I do. I think
absolutely
it's going to come down to the fourth quarter. I think, as knowing that what we've seen from Brunson, if Brunson is what he was last night, then yeah, I feel really, really good about their chances of winning Game 6. My one concern is Indiana plays Jackson more, and they play the grittier guys more, and they're able to do a little bit more because of that. And that if they get a few more rebounds and they balance out the glass a little bit, and they're able to run up and down the court, that's going to be problematic. So uh, thus far, the Knicks to me have dictated pace more often
Yeah. Hmm.
in this series. So from my vantage point, I give them the edge, even though it's in Indiana. But I would not be surprised if we're playing a game 7
Oh yeah.
either.
Yeah. Yeah. The teams are very even. I mean, in a lot of ways.
Right.
And it's because the Knicks are deprived of talent right now. I think if,
Yes.
if if you have OG in this game, you have Randall in this game. I mean, I question the Philly series. That's the only series I, excuse me, question as far as with Randall's participation in that series. But if he was in this series and along with OG, I think you see 4-1. I think that's what this might have went down to. Um, yeah, I mean they need Halliburton to be special. I mean, I think
They do.
at the bottom line, you having a star for star performance right now, and Brunson has won that battle. He's an elite talent, but I think what makes him elite is not what makes Brunson elite. Like we know Brunson is just this crazy. I mean, I didn't see that coming at all. I don't know who's ever said the
Nobody
two
did.
people saw that was Jalen Brunson and Rick Brunson. Those are the only two people that probably believed that this guy existed and had the capabilities because you got to start with the belief in yourself first. But when we look at Halliburton, I don't look at him as being a guy who's going to come in and drop 40. I think he's gonna get you a lot of a lot of baskets for everyone else, and he probably will get you 28 to 30 points. But that's not going to be him throughout a whole series. I just don't see that. And I think they need that to elevate that team to the level of because if he's clicking, then you're saying that your next two best players are they better than the next two players? And I think the answer is yes. You're Indiana. If Halliburton's being Halliburton and being special, then the next best guy is Pascal Siakam. Do I
Right.
believe there's a person on the Knicks if he's rocking and rolling that is better than him? No. But we also got to go back to mentality. This is really when you find out who's a dog. And I never look at Siakam as being a dog. I mean, he might, I don't know. He meows a little bit. I don't think he's a dog. And now you're looking at Miles Turner, who at one point was very special talent, but he's not intimidating. He gets a block here and there, but I would have thought in this game where you see the Knicks are people who attack the basket a lot, especially with Brunson, you would think that you'd have him hedge out a little bit more and try to stop some of his forays into the paint. But we haven't seen that really from him either. So I don't know. I don't think you have an answer for Brunson at all. I think Brunson right now, if you put it all on the table, he's the best player in this series. And I don't even know if it's even close after that. He's
Yeah.
that special because he has to be because the Knicks are up 3-2 in this series. And the Knicks' second best player, I don't know. Can you figure? I don't know who's the second best player.
I'd probably say Hart
Hard.
because of everything he gives them.
Yep.
So I'd probably say him, but it's him or Dante. Like it's one of those two.
Yeah.
Um,
But
so
if you
it,
went into a series, I mean, I think I'm just being a realistic fan because I mean, this has blown my mind where the Knicks are right now. I mean, I'm just completely like, wow, I cannot
I'm
believe
with
this.
you. I can't believe it either.
How special is Brunson that your next best player might be either Dante DiVincenzo or Josh Hart, and you're one game away from the Eastern Conference Finals.
It's true.
So
I mean,
I'm
it's
looking like in Indiana, and I'm like, you got Halliburton. Say Halliburton's even having a bad game. He's not. I mean, obviously we know the health. We talked about it a lot. So you got Siakam. That guy's about to get paid. He's also
yeah,
a champion,
he's an all-star. Yeah,
an all-star, and we're saying that little Jalen Brunson with his peoples, so it's just him with his peoples. Him with
that's
his
true.
peoples is coming through your gym, and they're kicking your ass. So I'm like, well, I don't know how it's never made sense this whole year, but he is a special talent, and the connection that those guys obviously have is
Yeah,
something that I've not seen in basketball. Given we may have saw with AI to a degree. I know him and I think Aaron McKee were very close. I mean, Aaron McKee, I can't think of his name. What is his name?
Yes, Aaron McKee.
Yeah,
Yeah.
he was close to those guys. We know he had a relationship with him, but I don't know. The league has way more talent than that team has. Indiana has a lot of talent. It's not.
Well, yeah.
It's
I
like
mean, you talk about Iverson too. He had arguably one of the best defensive centers ever to play the game on his team as well. So,
exactly.
he did have help on that end of the floor, and that worked. Brunson does. I mean, Hartenstein's great. He's not the Kemba Mutombo. So,
Oh
right?
no! Oh no!
Yeah. So I mean, you're right. I mean, that's probably the one thing I think that we don't give enough credit to. These guys are champions. They've won like Dante won in the NBA with
Yeah,
the
Bucks.
Warriors, even though he wasn't a huge part of it.
Mhm.
Because I think he was hurt that year, so I don't think he
Yeah,
even played that much. But I mean, Brunson's a two-time national champion. Josh Hart's a national champion. These guys, they've won, and they know what it takes to win. It's a higher level of basketball, yes, but they all know each other because they all came from the same program
yeah,
and they've won together. So that's why when the games are close and they don't get nervous, they don't get scared.
yeah,
They feel confident taking these shots because they've tasted the apple.
yeah.
Gotten to the pinnacle of at least in college, they got to the pinnacle of the sport. So also playing in all those NCAA tournaments when it's lose and go home,
I was about to bring that up. Right,
right?
right.
Um,
Yeah,
yeah, so I mean, you have that, they understand that as well. So again, there's always pressure in those games.
always.
So yeah. So I just think they're built for this, and I always give credit to Jay Wright. I say he built a program at Villanova that turned out tons of good NBA players, and all of them are this type of player.
Yeah.
Every single NBA Villanova player plays the way these guys play. It's a credit to them.
Mhm.
And yeah, that's why every game I feel like they have a chance
Yeah.
because as long as those three are healthy or a version of healthy, because like I said, Brunson is not 100%. He looked at last night, but who knows exactly what's going on there. Um,
It's very true because when I think about, I mean, I look at, we've talked about Josh Hart a lot. We talked about whether, we talked about the man's paycheck. We've talked about a bunch of things,
we have.
assets given up for him. And I just don't recall. I'm like trying to think. I've watched a lot of basketball. I've never seen a player like this. And I don't mean because of, oh, I know what he does. I mean, we know he's a rebounding guard. He's one of the best ever probably at doing that. He, much like Brunson, they don't make sense. It
No,
makes no sense that right now Josh Hart is playing at a level like he's an all-star. And we know that is not who that guy is. He's not an all-star. But damn, could you keep him off an all-star team in the playoffs? If you were to
no,
do an all-star selection right now, Josh Hart's not on your all-star team, you would not put him on there? Because any other year in the regular season, this dude is no more than a glue guy. He's a Swiss Army knife, or wherever army he came from, whatever city he came from, he's their knife. That's the only thing that we can look at and say, nobody saw a 20 and 10 guy. I know I didn't
no.
see a 20 and 10 guy and a guy running a fast break just as good as LeBron James or Giannis. I mean, that's what he's being compared to, and it's probably rightfully so. He finishes at the rim. When he gets ahead of steam, he's killing you. That ball's going in. It's just whether it's going to be and one. That's really what it comes down to, because he finishes with such an efficiency and strength, and he doesn't even look the part. He looks, what is he, 6'6"? He might be 6'6".
No, I don't even think he's that big. I think he's about 6'4". Yeah, he's not.
It doesn't make sense. It
No,
doesn't make sense that this guy might be your second best player. That, I mean, I don't ever want to look too far ahead, but I'm saying if they do spoil this and get into the Eastern, spoil the riches of Indiana, and they get into the Eastern Conference Finals, I don't recall a team as hodgepodge as this with Dante's. If you had to pick what Dante is in the beginning of the year or any other year, you're like, he might be a six-man candidate. He's a backup two guard. You're not seeing a guy come in there and all of a sudden he's lighting up Indiana in that one game. Was it game 3? I think it was. He comes out and
yeah, it was game 3.
he's lit. He's playing like, well, don't Don't get Donovan Mitchell. Why we need him for? I mean, that's literally he's canceled out. I don't care what Knicks fans they want to say. I know they want big names. I'm taking Dante right now. Why would you not? He's playing in the biggest market. He's performing. He's about as tough as nail. He shows up in big moments. And he clearly has an attitude that fits New York because what he did to Miles Turner, he was like, tell me that wasn't like the most New York thing. He's probably gonna be remembered for that forever. To get up in that guy's face and like, who?
Yeah, he was telling him he was like, just go. He's like, just go shoot your free throws.
Anyway, won't you just go? That dude, Miles is like almost 7 feet tall. He's a big boy. And for him to say, you're not gonna do anything anyway. That's a New York attitude if I've ever seen one. So
I know.
I don't know. This is a weird year for us, but it's great.
Yeah, I mean, it's been a fun run thus far. And I mean, just as you were like talking, I wanted to see how many rebounds Josh Hart is averaging. He's averaging 12.
See,
it doesn't make any sense, man.
Sense.
Doesn't make any sense, but he's been great. Like they would be lost without him too. Like honestly, it's amazing. Those three guys, when they were separated, they were all really good players on, at their other spots. But now that you bring them together and it's like, like Voltron, like here we go. Like, yeah, put them to I'll form the head and that's it. Let's go. We're jumping in.
And it's very crazy when you think about it because it lends to what they talk about in sports all the time when you have chemistry. And chemistry, what we're seeing now, how much chemistry matters, how much liking each other does matter, how much giving in and buying into a system matters. Guys willing to play for everyone, on their team. And that's what you're seeing with the Knicks. I mean, if they were to bring in another player, I think that's the key thing. They got to be people willing to give into the team and the concept that I sacrifice everything for the win, which is what Thibodeau always preaches.
Yeah, I mean they're a whole. The whole is better than the sum of its parts, right? Like that's kind of how I would describe them. Not to say that they're not good players. Obviously, Brunson has become a superstar this year. I think we can say that, fairly straight faced and not laugh. He's become a superstar this season, but yeah, like Hart and Dante and McBride and Precious, everyone who has been asked to step up and play has performed. This whole season it's been that way. So we got to give credit to the head coach in that part, and it looks like they're about to give him lots of credit because apparently he's going to get an extension starting at $10 million a year. That's the rumor that's out there right now, and
he's on the couch right now.
Yes, as you guys know, I don't love him, and I still don't. I still think there's things about that the coach that eventually will wind up being his downfall. But I did say on this show that if they lost to Philly, I don't think he would have gotten an extension. I really don't. I've said that before. I still believe that. But once they beat them, because of everything around going on and the injuries and all that, I was like, yeah, he'll be back. I guess you're just gonna find out how many years. I haven't heard years. I saw the 10 million per year number. So I don't know.
I think he's probably going to get 2 years. That's the way I look at it. I think he's going to get a 2-year extension. It makes sense. It's going to be very hard. There's two avenues of thinking here. It's going to be very hard to get rid of what has happened this year and think that somebody needs to go. But in the same breath, the people that are not here participating with what's going on and they're winning big have now become huge question marks. And that's the Julius Randles, that's the Robinsons, guys who've not been here participating, and the success is going to come down to somebody at some point when the season is over saying, well, what do we need you for if we've won this way? And I know that's not the poo-poo on Julius. I know he's a great talent, but that's where we are. You've won huge without these guys, and including OG. I mean, granted, we know they gave up 2 assets for him, but if the Knicks get to the Eastern Conference Final and he's been sitting out with a ham sandwich on his leg, he's got a ham sandwich issue. How valuable is he? How
I mean,
valuable is
it's,
all these guys? Because it's not like the Eastern Conference was like a bunch of injuries. The Knicks hit injury players and they sucked and they weren't ever. I mean, you could say someone, but there's been nobody more depleted than the Knicks. So Tibbs extension, probably well deserved. I mean, after this season, I mean, I don't know what I don't like
yeah,
him. He's not my favorite coach, but what you can't argue with this now. I mean, the success
no.
with a beat up team, they get to the Eastern Conference Finals. He's getting at least 2 years, and then the
They
question mark,
found, yeah.
he might get three. I mean, that this has been a hell of an accomplishment. When you think about the whole gravity of the whole situation, it's gonna be hard not to pay him.
Do you bet? I wonder if he like bets on himself and is like, yeah, okay, I'll wait until if they get to Boston. He says, okay, I'll wait. Maybe we'll take even if I take a couple games from Boston, you know, maybe I could, yeah, maybe I can bump this up to 12 million a year. Like, um, yeah, man. He's not that type. He obviously doesn't seem like
Yeah,
that type. And they did a whole art. I haven't read it yet, but they did a whole article on it in ESPN about, it's kind of like a mini bio of like where he got started and why he's given up a lot of things in his life to be a basketball coach and all this other stuff. I haven't read it yet. I saw clips of it and stuff, so I'll get to it. Yeah. They had a picture of him laying on the beach at one point with had a full head of curly hair and
that
dude,
thing been
man,
long now. How he is.
he was skinny, like he was in shape at the time. Like it was weird to see that. Yeah, it was weird to see that. But yes, I'll get to read it. But yeah, I mean, I can't argue, right? Like I said, he's not my favorite coach. I wouldn't have picked him to begin with, but they did, and he's definitely rebuilt the culture, a winning culture here.
Yeah,
And he's gotten the players that he needs to succeed. So, this team is built in his image. So yeah, I mean,
yeah.
if they're not gonna make any huge moves, if they're gonna keep it the status quo, I don't know if that's gonna happen, but if that's what they decide to do, yeah, might as well to keep going with him. The players apparently, according to Brian Windhorst, love him,
I love him.
love him. Like
You heard John
so,
Clark come out and defend him. He says nobody's in our flicking locker
yeah,
on film to know what's going on when they talk about this guy. And I mean, when in the totality, we are window shoppers and we're looking in
sure,
tinted windows, heavily tinted windows. We don't know what really goes on, in those facility in the practice games. And plus, they hold you out, so you would never know what's going on. But in
right,
the same sense, it's working. So I don't go deeper if it's working when the winnings happen. I don't care who the hell the coach is.
that's true.
As long as we're winning and what we feel this year could be felt again next year and for the next 3 or 4 years under this guy's guidance, I don't care. If it leads to a championship, I really won't give a damn. I'll go build a damn statue myself out of Play-Doh, him in front of the garden. If we win a damn title, he'd be the greatest thing since whatever. I mean, since Chicken
Man,
Little Heroes for me. I mean, if he definitely wins, I'm not arguing nobody.
yeah, I mean, it's hard to. It's really hard to argue if he gets them their first championship in 50 something years, 51 years now. Yeah, he definitely his name goes up in the rafters at the Garden. Like,
Oh, absolutely.
yep, he's set for life here, and he'll never have to buy another meal or drink in New York again. He's set.
People have been
So
people have been sticking Clyde for a cockatoo for the longest time, but they're like, he did win a ring.
I know he won a ring that people didn't mind paying $17 for a tableside guac at his restaurant.
We got the guap. The guap is going to cause a guap.
All right, so as much as this is a Knicks show, we're also fans of the NBA and fans of
Mhm.
the rest of the playoffs. So I figured we'd take a couple minutes, go around the NBA. We need to start with Denver because last week they had gotten killed twice at home, and we were discussing, and we were kind of like, yeah, I don't see how they could come back. And now they've won the last 3 games. So that series is crazy. And it's so weird that after Jokic won the MVP and he had that interview with Shaq, everything has changed for them. Like he's been fantastic. Jamal Murray, all of a sudden, they took him off the ball and now he's producing again. And yeah, it's a crazy, crazy phenomenon.
Mhm.
But again, like he's the best player in the world. They are the defending champions. They know what it takes to win. They never get rattled. Um, yeah, man. And they not only won in Minnesota, the first game they blew them out. Like they
Yeah.
destroyed them that first game.
Mhm.
Second game was close. But then last night they kind of kicked their ass again, and they were home last night. But
Didn't play around.
yeah, man. So what do you think? Can anyone beat Denver? I mean, if they're down, they were down 2-0. You thought they looked like they were dead in the water, and now they're like Lazarus arrives from the grave. Here we go. So
Well,
can
the thing for me with Denver before when they won last year, I said they're going to repeat because I just didn't see the thing. You got the best player in the world. You got maybe one of the best complementary players in Jamal Murray that fits. The question would be health, and a little bit of their depth might be an issue. But the game is so easy for Jokic. I just didn't see where his competition would be. This should be technically, in my opinion, sorry, Philly. I think it should have been his fourth MVP in a row. I don't think it should have been a skip year. He's the best player on the best team. They won a championship. I mean, what are you arguing about at that point?
right,
Um, I just watch him. He's one of my favorite players to watch. Obviously, I'm going to always stick with my boy Brunson. But we were discussing last night. I said, those two guys, when you watch them play, it doesn't make sense, but it
right.
just friggin' works, and it's a beautiful thing to watch. A guy literally with a dad bod, who probably looks like he probably drinks a keg in the locker room, has basically came
Mm.
out and taken the defensive player of the year, and he choked him more than Jerry Mon did. That
Seriously,
neck lock that Draymond, and that's probably what Draymond was snickering in during the post game and during the halftime because Jokic may have choked him better. Because when I tell you, he picked apart Gobert in a sense of saying, "Oh, they gonna put you on me? You think you're gonna do the thing? Oh, boy, hold my beer for a second. Hold my horse because I know you guys about to horses. Hold his
take the
fast.
reins.
Because I'm about to whoop your ass." And that's exactly what he came out with some of the most circus shots that I'm like, well, he can't get that. And it's like, oh, he got that off too? Oh, he spun around and got that? He's running a fast break in high climbing area, obviously. You can't breathe in Denver. So the chunkiest dude on the floor is outrunning the whole rest of the other teams down to do fast breaks and dunks on a guy who don't even dunk. He doesn't dunk. But he put on a clinic last night about
He
dunking.
did, man.
I just look at it and Minnesota at one point with the intimidation that they had in those first two games, you saw the potential. You're like, man, these some dogs on the other end of this leash, and they can really ball. And they look like they had no respect for Denver. And I would have thought, I mean, at that point, when you saw them and Denver looked like they were back on their heels a little bit, a little intimidated, so to say, like we talked about with Indiana. They looked intimidated for being champions. And, it probably is Shaq, because we've learned that TNT loves running their mouths about teams
Right.
and saying these off-color things about players. I mean, granted, I do think Shea Gilgeous-Alexander was deserving of an MVP, but you can't say Jokic is not
Right.
deserving.
Exactly.
Just say, well, I would have thought. I just think there's a context in which you do something. You congratulate the guy for winning. If you want to have that discussion in private, or you might want to be once he's off camera, say, I was thinking Shea, but congratulations to Jokic. He probably, for once, took something personal, hearing someone say something about him when he doesn't say nothing about anyone. He doesn't. He's probably the classiest MVP we've had since Tim Duncan. Guys who just don't chirp. They just go out and perform, and they take the accolades and the trophies, and they go home. You don't hear from them until next season. I'm more than sure he said, "Oh, y'all don't think I deserve this? You're not going to respect me as a champion." And that's really what Shaq did, was basically telling him, "Oh, well, I don't know if anybody heard what he said because he mumbled so damn much." With a little closed caption where he was mumbling, same way they mumble about the Knicks. The same thing applies with Jokic. You look at him, and he probably was like, "Oh, you think I'm being punked? You
I
think
mean,
I'm not him? He was him.
it's weird. Like you look at the stats since that game, since that interview. First game he had 24, 9, 14 and 9, so almost a triple double. The next game was 35, 7 and 7, and then last night was the 40, 13 and 7 that he had. So each game, it's like, okay, I gave you a little of that game, I'll give you a little more, then I'm gonna give you a little more. It is amazing to me that they looked so bad in those two games, and now they look so freaking good. And it doesn't make it defies logic to me. Um, and credit to Anthony Edwards, who, I mean, he's had kind of his coming out party in this playoffs. He's
Yeah.
definitely showing that
Mhm.
he should be considered as one of the next greats in the league.
Yeah.
But credit to him because last night he's like, look, that guy is fantastic. He's like, there's nothing we can do when he gets going like that.
Yep.
So I mean, game recognized game, right? Like you know,
Absolutely. Mm-hmm.
and he's the thing I like about him is with Edwards is he's grown so much from the
Oh,
kid that they drafted
absolutely.
that it's easy to like him. He's a
Yeah.
very easy guy to like. And yeah, man, I'm looking, I think we kind of need to also, I know he's not a great player anymore, but Mike Conley means a lot to them.
Absolutely.
And he's been hurt.
Mm-hmm.
So that's definitely had an impact on them, no doubt.
Yeah.
But man, I mean, I don't think Denver's there. I think they're winning. I think they're going to win Game 6.
Oh yeah.
Um,
I think it's done.
I think that series is over. Where a week ago we were saying was over the other way.
I mean, it's so funny just the shift in the series. I mean,
I know.
but it goes back to what we were just talking about, and I don't want to put Brunson with Jokic, but it has the same kind. I always say the 2 second rounders. I've never seen 2 second rounders play at this level of being both MVP caliber players. But with that being said, they have this thing about them when they come in and they impact winning.
Yeah.
Like no other player I've seen. I mean, I know we can talk about LeBron and all. Well, he was supposed to be this. He was supposed to be
Right.
these.
Right.
We recognize the echelon. We know that his great athleticism, et cetera, and that's not to dismiss what he's done. But these guys come as unexpected impact players, and you look at them both, and we're just concentrating on Jokic here. I'm more than sure a lot of people go in looking like, I can take him.
Mm-hmm.
This is a fluke. He has the hue. Look up what hue. He has the hue that doesn't, that's not the flavor of the month in the NBA with a lot of players, and they're like basketball has only got one flavor, literally. And a lot of people walk around with that. We've seen it with Luka, with Montrezl Harrell. Just do your homework on what I'm talking about. You see these guys come in and they go, I can take him. I'm more sure that Larry Bird had the same thing until they realized,
sure,
hey, he might be one of them. He's about that life because in competition, and I'm more sure that kid's coming up next. Cooper Flag is going to be one of those dudes too. That when you look at them, stop reading the wrapper on the instead of looking at the contents. You're looking at how it's decorated, but nothing measures heart. And what we saw from Jokic was somebody taking him lightly and saying, well, maybe you are not the MVP. And he probably said, I'm the best player in the world right now. Why would you think that I don't deserve it? And what I'm going to do is I'm going to go out here and take this guy y'all said was Defensive Player of the Year. And I'm going to bag him. I'm going to bag him up. And I'm going to put a toe tag on him, and I'm going to have the coroner come get him. Because that's what happened to Rudy Gobert. He looked terrible last night. And it's because that dude is one. He is a great player. I think he's the most fantastic player to watch. I love you. I love watching Luka, and I love my boy Jalen. But when you watch that guy run a fast break, it don't make no damn sense.
It doesn't. It doesn't. He's slow. He's lumbering. Like there's nothing about him that makes you say he's a great basketball player.
Nope.
But he is, man. And that's the thing of like Gobert last night. You look at the stats and he had 18 and 11. That's a good game.
Very good.
He was 7 for 7 from the floor. He didn't miss a shot.
Dynamite.
And then you look at and you're like, oh wow, yeah. That's another like sometimes people say stats are deceiving. Well, that's one of those instances.
That was one.
Stats are deceiving. So that series, yeah, again, they're going back to Minnesota for game 6.
Minnesota. Mhm.
So we'll see what happens in game 6, but I firmly expect Denver to win and move on.
Yeah.
We have a game going on right now between Boston and Cleveland. Boston
Mhm.
is leading 3-1 in that series. Not really that surprising to me. The surprising thing is that Donovan Mitchell apparently has a strained calf.
Mhm.
Um, yeah, and I see him sitting on the sidelines cheering, and so I don't know. Did it happen in the game? I didn't think it happened in the game. I thought we just heard
Um,
about it.
I haven't really followed much. It's so funny. I knew they had won one in Boston. The next thing I turned around, I guess I've been just a little bit busy. I'm like, damn, Boston's up 3-1. I was like, I didn't
Yeah,
even see another game where they beat them. So I really haven't paid much attention to that. But, I think he had a calf strain when he played the Knicks last year too. I mean, I just think, you gotta sometimes call out things the way that they are. He had a calf strain when Brunson was in Dallas beating him too. You have to start like Knick fans clamor for names, and
yeah.
we've heard this. The Troutmouth Smiths, speak on it. We see even
Mhm.
shout out to Allen, but they want these big glamorous names. And when you look at the NBA right now, where we stand, but the big name left is maybe Luka and Kyrie, like the big names, like they're the advertisement. Uh, the guys that are left are guys that nobody would pick probably in a pickup game. Probably just, look, I'm just not getting that guy. Boston has a couple guys that are obviously a bit more flashy. But when you look at guys like Jokic, you look at a guy like Shea Gilgeous-Alexander, you see Brunson. These are the guys that are left. And, it's just incredible. You know, you watch Donovan Mitchell sitting out a game, you're the star. And that's what we see. These stars are sitting out or going home.
Yeah,
And that's literally LeBron. I mean, no offense. Him and AD talked all that crap and Denver got him the hell up out of there. So it's
yeah,
not about the stars. It's about these guys that are getting it in the mud right now. And that's what you're seeing from a lot of these players. So people who want Donovan Mitchell, I think they should go and look at the last 3 playoff series he's been in and
yeah.
say, you going to pay him? You going to pay him that? Look at what the Knicks are doing with injured players, because I don't think
Mhm.
there's one healthy Knick right now, outside of maybe Alec Burks and Jericho Sims, and that's because they haven't really played. But well, then again, Alec Burks had an injury, so yeah,
Yeah,
so
he did.
he had some affected. So maybe Jericho Sims is the only Knick, and the other guys who are not playing are the only guys on the Knicks that are not injured, and all of those guys are going, all to the wall basically as far as effort. Could you now bring in Donovan Mitchell, who decided to need a calf strain?
I, yeah,
I would.
like I said, I didn't hear about. I feel like it would have been a bigger deal if he heard it in a game. Like we would have heard about it. He would have been like, "Oh, Donovan Mitchell got hurt in the game, and
Yeah.
that's why." But I didn't hear that. All of a sudden, I just saw these 2 reports saying, "Oh, he's not playing with the calf strain," and then he didn't play tonight either. And I'm like, it's an elimination game,
Why
and
would
you're
you?
not playing. Like, I don't know.
From
Again,
from I would.
everyone knows I was
Yeah.
a huge fan of his. I wanted the Knicks to draft him. I'm not going to sit here and say I didn't, but I have never changed on a player like I've changed on him. Like
Yeah.
I
You're right.
want no, yeah, I want no part of him in New York. And if anyone still wants him after like what Ty just went through perfectly explaining, you might need your head examined because I do not understand that thought process. And I've said many times he and Brunson are very similar in the fact of their production.
Mm-hmm.
They just do it different ways. And we already have one of him. That's how I look at it. So I
Yeah.
don't need another guy like him, especially when, in my opinion, he severely stunted the growth of Darius Garland, who
Yeah.
now doesn't look like the same player that he
No.
did before Mitchell got there.
And Mobley.
Um,
Mobley
yep,
also.
and Mobley too.
Look,
Yep,
he looks less promising now than that number 1 pick he was. So it's kind of
yep.
crazy.
And Cleveland should be smart enough to see this and be like, yeah, we're good. We'll try and trade you next year and
Yeah.
whatever the case. But that's what I would do. I'm
I
like,
give
we're going
him,
to try and trade you.
I give him the
Um,
heck out of there.
Yep, I'll get you out because, yeah, they don't. To me, he needs to go to a place where he's not the best player. He needs to be like the second best player, and then
Yeah.
I think they can win with him. They need someone who's who has a bigger presence. than him. All right, the last series is Dallas and OKC. This is the most besides the Knicks series. This series has also been very competitive. It's 2-2. Man, outside of a weird game from Luka where he looked like he just didn't even want to play, he was very, very weird that game. He hasn't been great in the series, but they've been good. Shea's been good. That series has been. I've watched not all of it, but I've watched some of it.
I think I caught no, I haven't seen the last 2 games. I missed the last 2 games.
Yeah, I mean, Dallas is getting production from Hardaway, and they're getting production from other guys. Yeah. Yep. And I just really like the Thunder. I honestly thought I didn't think this series would be that close, so I'm surprised that it's 2-2 right now. I kind of expected OKC to win, but I mean, Dallas does have arguably the best player in the league, if you want to say that. And Kyrie, 2 guys, a playoff tested guy, champion, NBA champion.
Yeah.
And he's not acting weird right now, so that's always a plus. It's always a plus. So, yeah, so they're tied up 2-2. Tonight is game 5 in OKC.
In OKC, so, right?
Yes.
I think you're just seeing we go back to the same thing with Luka. One of my favorite players to watch. I mean, obviously, I just love, I like dogs. I definitely like the dog.
Me too.
But in saying that still, I'm sticking to the same thing that I always talk about. Dude, when you going to get in shape? Because really, to me, this has been the difference between I know people are looking at that because I just celebrated Jokic, and I know he's not. He probably has. If he's got a six pack, it's probably attached to a keg. He's just not built like an athlete. So I get it, but he possesses the one thing. He has an advantage. Not only just his I think his IQ is higher than Luka's, which I know most people might say, "Wow, you said that." I just think it is. He takes less risks. He incorporates his team a lot better than Luka does. Luka does a lot of shots that are phenomenal to watch, but if he was in the Garden, maybe he's taking those shots, I'd probably cringe a little bit. So I'm like, your other guy was open. I don't know if that works in New York as much, and I know I love him. I mean, I'd love to see if it did, but my point is that he can be a little bit sporadic, but I think some of his laziness comes from, and I'm going to call it laziness, because he's not in shape. So he ends up taking those hero shots, saying, "Oh, I'm going to make them." If he was in shape, Dallas could be running more.
Yep.
They should be a fast breaking team more, because you should be playing more like your coach. Your coach over there was the guy who got it. He ran you downhill. And you have way more scoring prowess than Jason Kidd ever thought he could ever have. So imagine Luka is a fast break guy running down the court, and he's picking guys off as far as his snipers. You're either going to die by me pointing and shooting it, giving somebody the rock at the right time, or I'm talented enough that I can finish at the rim because I'm a big dude. If he played that way, I think Dallas would already have a ring. I just think that's the question mark. He needs to be way in better shape, and that's what you're probably seeing in this series is the attrition of, probably eating like I eat.
Me too.
Trying to run full court. His jump is just better than me, but he's doing a lot of the activities I do,
Yeah.
And plus, I'm not running up and down the court at 51. I'm just saying that these are things I think that if everything was even and he's in great shape, I don't think the series should be as close as it is. But OKC got some dogs. That's one of my favorite young teams to watch because the franchise obviously built it the right way.
Yes.
They built it. I mean, I'm envious of how they built that team. Granted, I love my Knicks now, but the Knicks could have benefited doing the same thing that we saw go on in OKC. Pretend like you're a small market and build through the draft and then ascertain players through trades that make sense, fit the timeline of your players currently on the team. It'd have been a beautiful thing. So OKC is doing it right, and they also have the assets to go out and get someone even better. So that's just ridiculously crazy when you think about that. But I don't know. I think his health is going to be always the question with Luka. I think you can't take OKC lightly. They may come out and win this game. Then you're going back to Dallas, and you better bring it. Because Okay,
I mean,
C's gonna bring it.
Dallas.
They're gonna
Yeah,
bring it. So you better bring it.
yeah. I mean, they were up. Dallas was up 3-1. No, they weren't. I'm sorry. They had a chance to go up 3-1.
Yep.
That's what they had. That game was close, and
Mhm.
Shea made the big shots down the stretch. It's a it's a weird dynamic um, on Oklahoma City in a lot of ways because they really don't have that veteran,
Yep.
right? There's just a bunch of young guys.
Mhm.
Um, but man, like you said, they were built the right way. Jalen Williams has become a fantastic player. Chet is only going to get better.
I think
Um,
Taylor Williams on the Knicks.
yeah,
Him and Duran. I think Duran plays in
yeah,
Chicago. Those were my picks. I was like, the Knicks should trade back, get those 2 picks, and pick those 2 dudes,
yeah,
as opposed to they took Quentin Grimes. Well, that would have been great depth for the Knicks. That's my whole thing. Is always the Knicks were lacking depth. You
yep,
know, you can trade back and get equal equivalent talent in 2 plays as opposed to one. I always think you do that, but we know this coach has a limited roster spot for everybody. But I just like him. Jalen Williams playing his butt off. He killed the Knicks in that last game that they
he
played.
did. Yeah,
It
he
wasn't
did.
Shea. It was that dude that just torched us. It's crazy.
Yeah, I mean, their depth of talent is just unbelievable. Um, I mean, they have guys on their bench that would be playing for other teams and they just don't play
Yeah,
because, you know. So that team again. Like everyone knows, I talk about Sam Presti's my favorite GM. I wish, as Ty just said, I wish the Knicks would have followed that blueprint.
absolutely.
They didn't. We're in a good spot. I'm not like super
Yeah,
upset about it, but um, like the way I look at it now is this group has a shelf life where if they built it like them, like OKC,
yeah.
just replenishing and even if they lose guys, hey, we have guys coming through,
Pipeline.
young guys who just start over the process. It's a fantastic way to build a team. And like you said, if a veteran becomes available that they need, they have more assets than anybody. They could just be like, yeah, what do you want? How many firsts? Okay, we got that. Here you go. Like it's like unbelievable.
I'm shocked they did not go after our guy OG. Granted, maybe
Yeah,
they have maybe a little bit of the remorse that we're seeing now with him.
yeah,
Unfortunately, having his moments where he tripped over his own shoelace, and it's like, oh, he's out for 4 more months. Let's see if he's going to come back in.
yeah, yeah.
And we don't know if that's. You got to ask yourself at a time: does the talent equal? Is it great enough for the aggravation you might suffer because you may be without him at times? But I would have thought that would have been a nice veteran for them to add into that OKC team that already has an identity. And he's the kind of player that he wants to play off of stars. He doesn't want to be a star.
no,
So he could have been something. I just hope they don't go out and get a Donovan Mitchell, trade for him, and then all of a sudden it takes away from the growth of those other guys.
yeah, I agree. We'll see. We'll see how that whole thing plays out. But the playoffs, I have to say, the second round there've been some pretty good games in the second
Yeah.
round of playoffs. So I've enjoyed this one, this second round a little bit more than the others. But for us, it's all about Friday.
Friday.
All about Friday. The game starts at 6, which is weird. That is a very weird start time.
That is
But it's 6 p.m. So
yeah,
yeah,
that's very weird.
it's weird, right? But we'll be ready. I'm pretty sure. I don't want to give a prediction because I don't want to jinx anything. So I'm
Yeah.
keeping my mouth shut.
Quickly.
But no, I expect them to be prepared and ready and to play a really good game to try and close them out. And I'll be scared if they don't. That's my thing. I'm not scared now, but I'll be scared if they don't close them out because it's a short turnaround time for Sunday. And yeah, I don't. Game 7's anything can happen. So
I think the thing is, the one thing I was glad to see that they had a little bit of a break in between these games as opposed to being the bunny hop, one hop over. They're going to have 2 days in between. The Knicks need that. I think it does help the Knicks a lot because, damn, that's all you can say is damn. They're,
no,
to have that Herculean performance I think the question would be for me if it was a shorter turnaround, what do you have left? So now we get a chance to hopefully they didn't do too much practicing and they got a chance to kind of just do some walkthroughs and some film because right now we're at a point where they need to save their energy and just mentally be about the game. This is about mental. This isn't about let me walk you through and do 500 jump shots. They've done enough all year already. They just need to
Sure.
be rested and ready to go, which they will. I don't. That's the one thing I won't question is the mentality of this team. I know they're coming out to give you everything they got. So it's good if they will have something in the tank on Friday, and they will.
Yeah, they definitely will. So let's get there. I need this to happen soon because I hate the anticipation. It's
Oh,
really nuts.
no, I'm no good, man. I'm no good waiting for the game. The game start. I'm just not good. I'm just not. I'm not.
Oh,
I love basketball probably too much, and that's really the issue because I'm like, no idea what kind of anxiety I have watching
yeah,
these
man.
games. It just takes you there, you know.
Yeah, yeah. It definitely it's definitely taken years off my life.
Which is funny because they were taking years off our life when they sucked too.
I know.
So I don't think people understand what Knicks fans go through. When they
But
were
at least
they were killing you softly or slowly or whatever the song you want to sing. That's what they were doing to you as if you were a Knicks fan when they were losers. Now they're
but
winning. Now it's high blood pressure like you ate a whole lick of salt. It's just bad, bad, bad. Anxiety. You're seeing ghosts from Christmas past or Nickmas past. You know, the failures of the other ones that almost got there. All these things. See the psychology of New York Knicks fans. You wonder why we're crazy when they're winning. That's why.
at least then though we knew it was done in April. Like we didn't have
Yeah.
to worry about after April we were kind of good. Oh,
I,
but
I,
anyway,
I had entered a weird territory because this is the first year I never watched the draft lottery.
I know.
I didn't even know who won the lottery. This is far. Y'all have no idea. Eric knows more than anyone. I was like,
Atlanta won the
Atlanta.
lottery.
I used to be like, attached to Tankathon, like, hey, let's figure out who we're going to get. I forgot all the devil. So that's a credit to that team being good this year. Shout out to
Yeah.
them.
We have 2 picks, and we will be covering the draft.
Mhm.
Joe mentioned he might want to do a
Yeah.
live show, so we'll see about doing that. We did it the first year, and I had a good time doing that live draft, so
Yeah,
it was fun. So yeah, so we'll see about doing that, guys. But we're gonna shut this one down. So Ty, tell them where they can talk to you if they want to talk to you.
So Ultimate Genius Scribble if we're on the X channel. Other than that, you can hit us up on our group page on Facebook. That's where I do most of my chatting and talking and writing. So come on, let your boy.
Yes, sir. And for me, at finally 33 is my personal handle at all_Nick_up is the show handle. You can hit me up either spot for basketball matters at all_Nick_up is probably the better place to hit me up, but I'll talk to you either place. It doesn't matter. That's fine. If you're interested in pop culture, I have a show called Straight Outta Gotham. Is at straight_G on Twitter. I just posted our latest episode, number 151, today. So you guys can check that out. Fandom pop culture. We talk comics, we talk movies, we talk all that geeky stuff that makes up the other half of my life. We talk that on that show, so definitely check us out over there. We will be back next week, win, lose, or draw, Wednesday night, to discuss this series and hopefully the Eastern Conference Finals. That's the hope. But we'll be back either way to either commiserate with you or celebrate. We will be here. So for Ty, I'm Eric. You're watching All Nicked Up, and we'll see you next week.